All right. Well, we already have hearts. That's wonderful.
Awesome.
Um, welcome, 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 everybody. I'm very excited to host this webinar. We're just going to give it a couple more seconds for everybody to fill in from the waiting room, and we're going to kick it off. One second. Almost there. All right. Well, we'll start the intro, and as the Zoom waiting line, as people check the tickets, the virtual tickets on the way in through the red rope, I'm sure people will catch up. Thank you very much for joining us on this Friday afternoon. If you're in the East Coast, I am happy to be joined by Dan Manning today. We're going to talk about common pitch mistakes. Gust has been around for almost 20 years. We have seen founders pitch investor groups, accelerators, ourselves over and over and over. And, Dan and I have been through our mission control program, often watching pitches. We literally did a pitch practice yesterday, and we see the same things over and over where it's like, oh, these are, I wouldn't say rookie mistakes, but just areas that most founders can substantially improve on to actually get their story told. Because that's the point of a pitch. It's telling a story. It is not, you know, amazing people with your slides, putting a industry stat out there that just blows people's minds. Most of the time, it is planting a story in somebody's mind. So Dan is going to drive the majority of this. I'm going to provide pithy commentary throughout. But we're really hoping to kind of elevate where founders are at and how to get themselves, uh, into a pitch that doesn't have those kind of like common pitfalls. So Dan is one of our I guess we can say long now,
Yeah.
long-standing partners with Gust, kind of helping us with our education. I'll throw some links in the chat. We had been running a program called Countdown to Launch, which is specifically designed to help founders get their narrative in order so that they can actually approach investors or even teammates or advisors or anybody who they want to join their venture and put that story in their mind. And we're going to focus this session in on, those common pitch mistakes and how you can turn them around. So, Dan, give yourself an intro and take it over from me, and I'll chime in when appropriate.
Awesome. Fantastic. So we are getting some comments into the chat. Some people are having some questions about the audio. If you are hearing the audio well, please let us know that you can hear it. Otherwise, we'll stop and we'll try to figure out what's going on. And also, if I'm able to put into the chat, that'd be great. Also, I have a few links we can share. Great. All right. Tabriz, it looks like it's you. It's working for others here. So I am Dan Manning. I'm a storyteller. I help people to move ideas through story. I'm also, as Nash mentioned, I'm the lead founder education partner with Gus, running the Countdown to Launch program. And right now, we are in the sign up phase for the Countdown to Launch program. So people are submitting their pitches into us to qualify to continue. We're only going to let people in that I think that we can actually help to be able to advance their business and to make them ready to start pitching to raise the capital that they need. It's a pretty in-depth program. I spend a lot of one-on-one time with each of the folks that are there, and at the end, you get not only sort of the words of your pitch, you get a delivery deck, you get a standalone deck, you get a one pager, you get the pitch practice with not only with the Gust team, often including David, but also some other mentors that we have there. It is pretty powerful. So because it's so powerful, we spend a lot of time looking at the pitches that people send in to make sure that we are helping the good founders with good businesses to do what they need. So this is all about how do we avoid these common mistakes that I'm seeing over and over in the applications that come in, as well as what we hear during pitch practice. All of this is intended to be nothing more than helpful to you. People don't make these mistakes because they're dumb. They just make the mistakes because as startup founders, we don't form that many startups. So a typical startup founder is going to know about their pitch and maybe a few that they've seen before. Whereas if you're on the other side, you're seeing thousands of these, and these mistakes really stand out more than you might think. So let's get right into it. And I've put these mistakes kind of into three buckets. We are recording the session. I also have a one pager that we'll send out as well after the session to help you out. But the first kind of bucket of mistakes that we see founders making are really mistaking what it is that founders are buying. What are they buying inside your business? And the first of these
Oh, I think
that I
even investors, yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What did I say?
You said founders.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So what investors are buying inside the founder's business. And the first common mistake that I see is founders essentially pitching as if they are pitching to a customer rather than pitching to an investor. So they begin pitching the product rather than pitching the business. And this is feedback that we give a lot of times during the pitch practice. Somebody will talk about, here's this problem, here's how I'm solving it, here's all the screens. Maybe they'll be tempted to do a demo of their product. They're going to talk about how it's faster and how it's easier and how all of these things are great for customers, but they don't talk about how you're going to turn that greatness into a business. How are you actually going to start making money from the thing that you're putting out there? Recognize that in very few businesses are investors also your customer, right? If you're building a product for consumers or for one type of person, it is only by coincidence that the investor also happens to be the customer who is there. So we're thinking about different things. We have a different approach. Your customer is interested in, can you relieve my pain today? Investors are in, can you relieve lots of people's pain lots of times and build a business and build an engine that continues to do this? So definitely talk about what your product is, make it clear about what the solution is. We're going to have more here as well. But then once you are clear about how you are relieving the pain for your customer, now you've got to switch into business mode. So Ryan, I'll go through just a couple of these and then we'll come back and we'll circle back and get your comments there as well. So the next is also kind of along the lines of not understanding what investors care about so much. I see lots of pitch decks and hear founders who are talking about, we're going to be profitable in 3 years. Now, profitability is certainly better than not being profitable, but profitability is really not the goal if you're building a venture scalable business. You want to build a sustainable business, a business that can continue to live kind of with or without investment. But if you are making profit and you have built a reliable sales motion and you know that if you advertise, if you spend $100 on advertising and you get $500 back in customer value, it is better for you to pour that money continually back into your marketing until your business needs to do something else. So while profitability is a good general goal, it's really not the key to determining that you have a great business here. Many high growth startups are not profitable for many, many years because they're in that high growth mode and they're continuing to expand and continuing to grow. So shift the emphasis off of profitability and more to sustainability. How are you going to sustain that growth over time? And if you're sustaining the growth over time, you're going to build a profitable business. 3, sometimes founders are kind of have backwards this idea of customers and raising funds for investment. So many times they will say, we're going to raise money. Then with this money, we're going to build our sales team. We're going to build our sales motion. We're going to go out and start bringing customers in after we've already spent the money to build a product and to grow the team. I'm telling you that your fundraising will be easier the more customers you have, right? Having people who are actually signed up, who are actually giving you money, who are actually paying, de-risks your entire business. Like, I'm a believer in story. I'm a believer in storytelling. I've helped hundreds of founders to build pitches and they've raised millions of dollars, from those pitches. But better than a story is evidence. And customers giving you money is evidence that you have a business that is actually on its way to finding product market fit. So you want to make sure that you are emphasizing, and even in your actions, that you're working to find those customers, find those early people who are signing up, get the traction that every investor is looking for, and that's going to put you in a better place. Another mistake that I see is founders who are pitching what is rather than what will be. I was working with a founder last year who was building this product, and he has a developed product. He's actually making revenue, a couple $100,000 of revenue off of the product that he has, but that's not where he's stopping. He's going to build something else. But when I first looked at his pitch, he was only talking about the thing that he had now. And there are limitations to the thing that he has now, and it provides definitely value and people are paying for it, but it's not his big vision. And what I needed to help him see is that investors don't make money from what you have today. they make money in that gap between what you have today and what you are going to create in the future. So you don't want to, I would say you definitely want to be grounded in the present, but you want to show that this isn't it. Here's my path about how I'm going to get to that next place. And that next place is where we're all going to make money because that's where the product market fit is going to be. So talk about what you have now because it shows your progress and what you've already been able to do, but that's not where it ends. It continues to move forward. And then the last one in this section, and this is one that Ryan specifically talked about yesterday, is really about making, putting your terms into your pitch deck. So Ryan, do you want to talk about this one?
Yeah, I think excuse me, sorry. It is very smoky here in the Northeast, as I
It
put in
is.
the chat. So I am Dan's been dealing with my raspy voice for like 2 months for a variety of reasons, but now it's just smoke. Um, Something founders often do before they have any commitments is they start to dictate terms because they feel like saying, "Oh, this is the security I'm using, a safe or a convertible note," gives them some credibility in terms of their raise when nobody else is committed on the other side. The thing you really want to do is just say how much money I need and how I'm going to put it to use. That is where you start, your pitches. Once you get people interested in your venture, and if you get somebody who says, "Hey, I will invest," I think there's something here, and you negotiate that. Once you get that agreed upon, you can go out with terms. But in the beginning, and most founders, you're going to pitch hundreds of people before you get those kind of commitments. And a lot of times you're going to get those commitments that are kind of what we call soft commitments or soft circled. They're not going to want to negotiate the terms. So don't lead with the terms specifically, like what kind of instrument I'm using, what my valuation cap is, what the discount is. Don't worry about that. Just say, this is the amount of money I need to get my business to the next inflection point. And then once you get somebody to agree with you and you negotiate terms, then you can use that. But a lot of founders put at the end of their pitch deck, "Oh, I'm raising, $1 million on a whatever safe at a whatever valuation." And that just gives investors a lot of reasons to walk away.
Awesome. Any comments on those others about kind of you pitching the product rather than the business or profitability or any of those other things?
Yep, I think the product is a big one. I think a lot of, Dan, you and I have seen this many times. Like, so when we do pitch practice, we try to limit it to 5 minutes. We start the clock. They always go over if it's their first time. But I like to just write it down while people are pitching. They will often spend 3.5 out of their 5 minutes just talking about their solution because they're so excited by it. And it's like, it's part of the founder, right? The reason you started a company is not because you like the underlying nuances of, corporate structure and cap tables and securities and things like that. You did it because you want to solve a problem. And it's natural to want to like just preach about the solution that you've done. But most investors, like Dan, I think you had it on one of your slides, they're looking at the business. They're not just looking at the solution. In the first contact, um, they're just going to believe you that you've built the solution to have the second conversation. But some founders spend so much time. Literally, they put up, there's 7 slides of diagrams about how their solution works or how cool it is or like how they came about it and like how things haven't worked in the past and yada yada yada. And they spend so much time when in reality, like we'll just believe you to get to the second conversation. You will get the time to extol the amazingness that you have built. But if you're pitching a business, you first need to make the business case. So tighten up that solution, make it just bam, we fix this. This is the problem. Oh, we all agree with that. That's a problem. Here's how we fixed it, and this is how we're going to make a business out of it in the early days.
Perfect. So we're going to talk more about that here in a second about mistakes that people make about what should be in the pitch. We do have a few questions in the chat. So Amer asked about the teaser deck. So I will give my answer, and then I would love to hear
Sure.
if Ryan has anything different. So Amir is asking the pitch deck versus the send out teaser deck to get interest. How much should one reveal in the send out teaser, and is there a blueprint? So the blueprint that I use, and it's in my book, the guide to startup pitching for very early stage founders. If you There you go. Right, it's right back there. It is on Amazon, but also if you send me a note back to you know, directly to me with your address, I'll send you a copy of it as well. But I say that regardless of how long your pitch is, there's really four key questions that you need to answer in order to get any chance to hear a yes. And in this case, the yes you're looking for is I want to hear like your actual, about your 5 minute pitch. So first, you've got to be clear about what is it. What is the actual product that you are going to deliver? And this isn't, we're going to talk about this as well, but not a long series of buzzwords and keywords, but just speak English. What is the actual thing that you're going to deliver? And then second, what is the unique value that this product is going to deliver? Now, unique value could be that you're serving a market that's not been served before. It could be that you are doing something that has not been done, certainly in this way before. It might be that you found a way to manufacture the solution for some lower price, but there has to be something unique about what you're doing that is not currently in the market because customers already have what's currently in the market. So, what are you going to do in order to make that better? So, what is it? What is your unique value? Number three is how is this going to be a big business? How is this going to grow into something that is scalable that can produce 30x returns for an early investor? So you're going to talk a little bit about the market. You're going to talk a little bit about the pain maybe that people are facing, how much that pain is costing them, either in terms of their time, their money, their attention, or something else. But you're going to be clear on how you're going to grow to be big. And then the fourth one is why you? Why are you the person to be building this business? So my guide is I want to answer those four questions. And if I answer those four questions in a compelling way and I'm building a compelling business, then I'm probably going to get the chance to actually pitch, assuming that the investor that I'm asking, like my business, like fits their thesis and I'm in line with what they are already doing. Ryan, is there anything else that you would think about in terms of the teaser deck that goes out?
I think you covered everything that should be in it, but I think there's a question underneath Amir's question,
Yeah,
which I'm going to use a screen share real quick if I
do it.
can. Can you guys see that and still hear me?
It is on the way right now. It is loading. It's there. We go. We got it.
There we go. So the this is a question we get a lot because especially in like mission control and some of our 101s, a lot of founders are like, "Hey, I'm applying to an angel group and they're asking me for a pitch deck." And what I've heard from Gust is like you always want to be there to present your deck. You don't want, you don't want your deck to stand alone. And that is true when it comes to the deck that you're going to pitch. But very specifically, and we're kind of long in the tooth now. We've been around for too long. But Gust's rigidity is actually part of its value. And so this is a Gust company profile. If you look at what it is basically, your birth and school records of your company, the industry where you live, how long you've been around, who's in your company. This is a test account, so it doesn't have a ton in. The pitch deck is something that we allow you to upload. This is an example. It's not a pitch deck at all. It's just a document. But the executive summary on Gust is purposely designed based on working with hundreds of angel groups over decades to be the bite-sized information they need to make a decision whether or not they want to talk to you. And you can see here what we call the executive summary. I think it's 8 fields: one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10, whatever. Management team. This is everything Dan talked about. Customer problem, products and services, target market, business model, customer segments, sales and marketing strategy, competitors, competitive advantage. That's all you need. And each of these fields is limited to 450 characters. So think about that when you put together your teaser deck. What you don't want to do is you don't want to give a deck to somebody that allows them to basically just completely remove you. It is a teaser. So you probably are talking 8 to 10 slides that just say, who am I? What's the problem? How I'm fixing it? How big the market is? What I've done so far? Let's talk. That's it. And the profile is designed to do that because what we built the profile for is not to allow anybody to make a decision, but to allow somebody to say, I want to know more. And that's the same thing with the teaser deck.
Awesome. Thank you. So I can't post into the main chat. I can only post to you, Ryan. So if you don't mind, can you drop my LinkedIn that I just sent to you there
Sure,
into
sure.
the chat?
Oh,
Michael, you'd
interesting.
asked about the copy of the book. If you send me a note there on LinkedIn with your physical address, I will send it to you. So one other thing that Ryan talked about before was how people often go over time when they're doing their pitch. Now let's be clear about time, right? So there are some cases, especially in like a pitch competition, where you have a time that you have to hit. If you or when you get a meeting with that's not the right one there, Ryan.
Yeah, no, I'm fixing. Hang on.
So if you or when you get the meeting with an investor, you're probably not on a stopwatch for you to deliver. But in Gust, we train for and we practice for 5 minute pitches because of the discipline that that 5 minute pitch requires on your part. It requires you to take your big idea and to be able to communicate it in a clear and succinct way in about 5 minutes. Now you can maybe you speak at a slightly faster pace or slower pace than someone else. I speak at 150 words per minute. So
Ooh,
if I
you've
want,
measured yourself.
yeah, absolutely, right? Because if I know that I speak at 150 words per minute, I know how many words I can write down to say in my pitch, right? And that allows me to then go and I can write out the words that I want to say because writing forces me to make choices. And if that is 1,000 words, that's too many, right? I'm going to have to make those choices to trim it back. Now, when I'm actually pitching, my goal is not to, I'm certainly not, I don't want to read, I don't want to try to memorize that, but it helps me to make those choices about what should be in and what just doesn't fit into that time. And then when you're there and you can present your full idea in that short, concise period of time, now you've got time to have a conversation. I'll also add that it does not look good. A founder does not look good when it seems like they go on and on and on, right? When they are not able to concisely present the idea that they have, that seems like it's a failure of the founder. And when you're pitching, you have such a narrow band to be able to show that you are able to build a giant business that you don't want to give it away by speaking for 15 minutes out of your 20-minute meeting that you might have. Convey your idea, you've got time for questions, and then you can keep going. Good. All right, so let's get back into the list unless you had anything else there, Nash.
Yep, I'm good.
Perfect. All right, so now in this next section we're going to talk about some mistakes that founders make about like the inside the actual pitch itself. So one of those we mentioned a little bit earlier is putting in a bunch of buzzwords instead of what your solution actually is, right? That we're an AI powered cloud native, yada, 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 that's democratizing something else in a multimodal way. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what that means. So you want to be able to communicate, and David Rose in the often talks about how you want to communicate is if you're talking to an intelligent sixth grader, somebody who is smart enough to understand words and understand a little bit about the world, and now I'm going to communicate directly what that thing is. If you cannot say in a short phrase what your solution is, it is almost impossible for anyone else to do it. And if they do try to communicate what it is that your solution is, then they're probably going to get it wrong. I want to be very clear about what it is we're doing. And part of the pitches that I build inside the Countdown program and for all my clients includes us spending time on what is the one liner. What is the one line of what my business is? And I'm going to put that one line up on the cover slide of my page. It's going to be the first thing that people see on the cover slide of my deck. So this will be the first thing that people see about my business because that first idea is going to be the most powerful idea that they have. And then when I meet people and I talk to people and I talk about my business, I'm going to keep going back to that thing. And I may have to refine it over time as I understand like what do people believe I'm doing when I say those words. But I want to put the work in to not having this buzzwordy solution, but actually having a solution that people can actually understand. All right. The next is not being clear on who your customer is, or even worse, believing that your customer is everybody, right? As a startup, you cannot serve everybody. You don't have the money, the time, the resources to be able to serve everyone, and you don't want to, right? You want to get product market fit with one piece of the market and then expand it to another and then expand it to another. And your choice about which area of this market that you're going to approach reveals something about you as the founder, right? An investor in the when they're deciding whether now they're going to go from this first meeting with you to having a longer diligence meeting, they are investing in the founder as much as they're investing in the business. So how you think about what your first customer segment is going to be is going to reveal your business acumen and how you are approaching the challenge that you're taking on. When I'm working with clients, I like to try to change their mindset a little bit around this first market that they serve. And I challenge them to find what is the easiest possible customer segment for you to sell into. That easiest possible customer segment is going to be somebody with an urgent pain and the ability to pay to relieve it. Find out who that most urgent customer segment is, start getting some traction there, and then you learn a ton from them. You're getting some revenue, you have some evidence, you have some proof, and now you can move to someone else. If you're saying everybody's your customer, it's not a good
No one's
not a good
investing.
look. No. All right. Here's one, and Ryan, I'll stop on this one and have you contribute more to this one as well. Sometimes founders just misunderstand about the scale of business that they need to build in order for it to be an investable business, right? We can do another session on the power law of startup investing, but
Yep.
generally, the vast majority, say 90% of the investments are going to fail. A few of them are going to break even, a couple are going to make 2x or 3x. Those are still losers because the entire portfolio counts on one to two investments making 100x, 1000x returns on these outsized returns in order for investors and startups to make money. If your business cannot be, does not have the possibility to be one of those 100x or 1000x types of returning businesses, it cannot be a good investment, even if you can show that we're going to be profitable, even if I'm going to be able to pull in consistently $2 million a year in profit. That is not an investable business because it doesn't scale up big enough. Now, if you run into this, now you have some choices, right? You're the founder. You get to make some decisions about what it is that you want to do. It might be that you expand your vision if you want to do this, right? But you've got to want to do it. But you expand your vision to make a bigger business. Or maybe it's just not a venture fundable business and you look for funding through revenue or through family and friends or through grants or through loans or some other approach. But if you don't have a business that can scale, investors cannot invest. Ryan, do you have anything that you think about sort of when you're looking at the TAM and kind of like what that TAM number would need to be to kind of like pass
The
the
threshold.
yes, right.
Yeah. So the funniest thing is we need to very much segment professional investors from people who invest in businesses. So there are people who will give money to a business because they believe the business is viable and they get some outcome from it. I will give a personal example. I'm invested in a gym in Hong Kong because my good friend, who's a crazy Scotsman who moved to Hong Kong 15 years ago, said, I want to start a gym because he's a crazy person and he's a power lifter and he's like, there's a need that's not being met on the streets of Mui Wow, which is a remote island off of Hong Kong, because everything is in the central district and it's run by the state and it's bad. It's just, it's like a Planet Fitness. And I say, I believe in you, Tony, and I'm going to give you some money to get your business off the ground. Do I think that is an angel investment? No. Like, I'm not going to make the industry benchmark is 30x. It is only worth investing in startups as an angel investor if you think you can get a 30x return within about 10 years, 6 to 10 years. It used to be six, now it's 10. The times have changed. But that's the only way the asset class makes any sense. Otherwise, you should just put your money in the S&P 500 because you'll get a better return over time and things will be fine. So you're either an angel, full on altruist, which are rare, or you're somebody who's trying to make money. So the people who are, I like to call them strangels, stranger angels, people who you have not met before, right? So me and Tony, we've known each other for years. I'm going to give him money because I want him to realize his dreams and I get a little bit of kickback, once his business gets good. That is not an angel investment. That is just me helping out a friend, like Dan said, friends and family. All the other investments, the angel investments, the venture capital investments, they are looking for a return. And the only way their portfolio makes sense is if that return is substantial because they know, I believe it is actually, you said 90%, Dan. I think it's 98%.
Those big
98% of
optics.
startups fails. And so most professional angels and definitely VCs know that. So they build their entire portfolio around the idea of almost everything I'm going to invest in is going to fail. Therefore, the one that succeeds, or maybe the two, if I'm alive long enough, need to succeed on a level that replaces all of that failure. So we don't, like you said, Dan, we don't care about the 2x returns. We don't care about the break evens. We need the big one. And that is what they're thinking about. And so it's you showed it well in your slides, Dan, where it's like a tug of war where you can't be insane in terms of being like, we're going to make $1 trillion next year. But you also can't be like, oh, I hope we make $3 million in 5 years. You have to be somewhere in between. And you also have to like know that in your soul, like, this is the kind of business I'm building. If you look at your projections and you say, I'm very happy building a $3 million a year business, and that's just going to continue in perpetuity. Don't look for angel funding. Don't look for VC funding. Don't exhaust yourself going down those paths. But if you say like, oh, I can, I think Dan, what you said is like expand my vision. Where I like to use like
Hmm.
coffee table examples, right? Amazon started selling books, right? eBay started selling Beanie Babies, yada yada yada,
Hmm.
right? It's like you start with that, like this is why I say it's a tug of war, where it's like you don't want to say all of my customers are everybody, but you could say to Amazon, your customers are everybody, but not 15 years ago, right? It was your customers are people who want to buy books on the internet. And so that's the kind of tug of war that a lot of founders have to play. Is like make it reasonable, make your wedge or your go-to-market strategy make sense, but also preach a vision that is like this can get much and much bigger. And
Hmm.
that's the fundraising story where it's like we start here, but like look at the opportunity. But our customers aren't everybody, but our customers can grow. Our customer base can grow and our revenue can grow, and we can be a returnable business to investors if you're going to go after those kind of investors.
The Sometimes we see the other problem, not where the TAM is too small, but where founders put this absurdly large TAM onto the slide. So I can imagine somebody who's doing, working in prop tech and they're building something for the real estate market, and they will say, "Oh, the U.S. real estate market is a $10 trillion market." Well, yeah, but that includes the real estate. Like you're not going to
Right.
take the real estate from them, right? It is so your market is not the entire like the real estate, the thing that's attached to it. It is how much are professionals spending on these software tools that allow them to do this job. And if you show this, multi-trillion-dollar TAM, that is a mark against you. Right? It is not in your
Yep.
favor. I tell founders that when you get to that TAM slide, like everybody knows that those numbers are squishy. Those numbers
Yeah.
are very close to made up. Like, well, 100% they'll be sourced in something, but there's no book and there's no formula that says, oh, if you're building a prop tech company, here's the TAM for that company. Like, we go and I work with founders and we'll go do the research. And it turns out that I'm spending a lot more time like doing that research with them than I would have guessed because that slide is a pop quiz for you as the founder. This is a chance for investors to understand how you think about your business. How do you see the big piece of pie that's there? Generally, I say if your TAM has a B at the end of it, then nobody's going to like think twice enough about whether that's a big enough business. Would you agree with that, Ryan? I haven't like talked to you about that. Would you agree?
Yeah. No, like I said, I think I said before, it's like no investor believes the TAM. They just want the TAM to be, if you say your TAM, total addressable market,
Mm-hmm.
if you say your total addressable market is $100 million, everybody's going to check out from an angel um, perspective because it's like, oh, there's just not enough money there to make a return. Anything other than a B, who cares? But how many B's you have, they're not going to believe it. What you need to show is it's big enough that once I like to think of it in terms of like once you crawl out of the ocean, there's enough land for you to procreate and like create something amazing. And that is all really that they care about. So, if you're like real estate's a great example. Um, I haven't talked to a lot of founders who have ingenious devices that the 0.0001% of the world can afford, right? So if you're a founder and you're like, I'm going to make a flying, personal whatever carrying capacity thing, and it's like, okay, so the amount of people you can sell this to is 1,000,
Hmm.
10,000. And so either your price point has to be super high, or you have some weird innovation that I don't know about. But if you say I'm going to make an electric bike that cities can rent and yada yada, yeah, this is going back 10 years. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, millions of people can buy that. You have to gauge the market and the demand, and make it make sense. Because a lot of times I think founders get obsessed with the innovation and they don't realize like the TAM, like I said, nobody believes your TAM. The TAM just needs to be big enough to be like, hey, this has potential to grow substantially.
Good. In the chat, Tara was asking about TAM, and Ibu Kun is posting some responses there. And the definitions that are there are, yes, they're right. But I'll also say that there's also not a book that says this is always the TAM. So some investors will see it slightly differently. But here's an example to think about, right? If I were thinking about opening up a new hamburger chain in America, and I'm presenting this to investors, my TAM, the total addressable market, I would probably put as all fast food spend for Americans. So that's going to be, I don't know what the right number is, $35 billion a year spent on fast food. And then inside that total addressable market, I have the SAM, and this is the serviceable addressable market. So now I'm just talking about all the people that buy hamburgers. And now I would include inside that, if I were able to sell every hamburger in America, how much money would that be? So if the big number were $350 billion, maybe this is $35 billion. But I only plan on opening in Southern California. And now we get down to the serviceable, obtainable market. So I'm not selling hamburgers in New York City. I'm selling them in LA, and I'm only going to open up restaurants in LA. And I believe that with 2 restaurants in the next 5 years, I can get $300 million a year in hamburgers. Now it becomes more complicated when you have a SaaS product that somebody from anywhere in the world can get, and how you're going to segment those, and you're only serving like a piece of the market, and I'm not trying to serve all of that, but generally that's how you go through thinking about it. But in
Yep.
the end, like the numbers you put are the numbers that you can defend, right? The numbers that make logical sense, that make business sense, that align with your business. Anything else there, Ryan, before we keep going?
Well, the first thing I want to ask is, have you been to Hamburger America?
I have not been to Hamburger America.
Oh. Hamburger America is a now famous New York City restaurant that
Mm,
is exceptional. The man
nice.
who runs it has gone all over the world to figure out the perfect hamburger, and he might have created it. Other than that, no. That's it. The
Perfect.
the relationship between Tam, Sam, and Son is Tam is basically your North Star. It allows you to communicate to investors that there's something big here. But the most important part is the Sam and the Sam, which is like, how are we going to do this? You just need to show that it's big enough. And I think a lot of times founders trip over the idea of I've made a thing people like. So there's two bad sides of it. There's the side of I'm a visionary. Everybody can eat it, right? Everybody is, a fast food person at some point. And those are the founders who are just like too starry-eyed and investors write them off. And then the other one is like, I've fixed this thing for a niche and it's so amazing. I should get tons of money. But it's like the niche is small. So you have to just do the exploration to figure out, where are you? So you're somewhere in between. Or honestly, a niche is a good business, but it's not an angel investable business. Definitely not a venture investable business. Or you're too starry-eyed and you need to shrink it down a little bit and say, okay, what's the realistic way that I can get into this market? And I know it's big, but I need to make steps into
Perfect. So I don't want to get bogged down in Tam, Sam, and Sam, because in
it.
reality, in your actual pitch, that's going to be 20 seconds. 20 seconds of how you go through that thing. It is. It is the 20 seconds that can like backfire on you if you don't do it well. But I would also Google and look up calculating a bottoms up TAM, SAM, and SOM. What I described was the top down. But if you're bringing something that doesn't have a market and you're coming into some place, then you're going to want to do it from bottoms up. So definitely Google that, or your favorite LLM there as well. All right. So let's keep going, right? So I mentioned earlier that your early investors are investing in you as much as they are investing in your business. And some of the pitch decks that I'm seeing coming in on the applications for Countdown to Launch don't have a team slide, or they have a team slide that looks like this, and it's just the very basics about the name of the person and maybe one line about what it is that they are doing. We want to communicate. Remember, it's the fourth of those four questions that we talked about. Like, why are you the person to build this? Why are you the person to make this a big a big business? I see Ryan looking close at the fine print on there. Um, so so some reasons that you are the person to build this, like the absolute best would be that you have already built a high growth startup, you exited and made lots of people lots of money. Like that's an easy investment, and you probably don't even need a pitch deck, right? Elon Musk calls somebody and asks for investment, and people are going to give him money, right? 100%, right? Next to that, I would say, and I'd be interested in your take as well, right? And these aren't necessarily in an order, but kind of in the next group are going to be, established entrepreneurs who maybe didn't have a high growth business, but they understand like what they are stepping into. They've done something already in this market and in this space. They know how to talk to customers. They know how to create sales. They know how to build a business. And now they're looking to build a giant business rather than a previously successful business. You're looking for a founder who has some like founder market founder product fit that exists. Maybe, and a lot of the founders that we get coming into the Countdown program are experienced professionals who had a career in a corporate life, and they built something there, or they discovered some insight there, and now they're building their this other business that they want to have as a startup, but they come with this bulk of expertise that now they can apply to this business. If you don't talk about that, like you're not getting credit for that. You're not getting credit in the mind of the investor about what it is that you're doing. And especially in this standalone deck, you need to list some of those things. What is your connection to this market and to this problem? And the last thing I would say here is that that connection is stronger if it is not simply I want to make a bunch of money doing this. Right? Building a startup is incredibly hard. Like I've done lots of crazy things, in my life, but definitely like building any type of business is incredibly challenging. And investors and your team and your co-founders want to know that you're in for this. You can do hard things, and you're willing to stick it out when it gets really tough. And that broader purpose is going to be the thing that sustains you. And if you don't communicate that broader purpose, nobody knows what it is. Ryan, anything else on the founder slide there?
I just say on the team slide, it's like for most companies, it's going to be weak in comparison, in terms, like you said, if like I just came off three exits, you know my name before I even pitch you, your team slide is whatever. So what you want to do is just you don't want to dwell on it if it's, um, you guys are trying to make it work and you're coming off of the thing. You just want to hit the high points as fast as you can with as much credibility as you can. I found a lot of founders use the team slide almost like a job interview where it's like, oh, like I have so and so, my co-founder, they did a bunch of irrelevant but interesting stuff and they spend time, talking about it. And you're like, but like you said, it has no connection to the business. So just really like shrink down why these people, why you, why them, and just get through it as fast as you can. If you get if you get any kind of interest, you can open that flower later. About like why you don't want to try to explain to an investor in a 5 minute pitch or even a 10 minute pitch why your co-founder's experience in, an adjacent industry that gives them like a unique perspective on blah blah blah. that's great later on. But when it's in that small first introduction, it's just why them, why you, how it connects, everything. Just make it short, sweet, and validating, and that's it.
And that is one of the challenges that lots of founders have around talking about themselves. And that's really one of the places that I can give them a lot of value back because I come from this more objective perspective, and they don't want to talk about this great thing that they've done. Like, that's BS. We're going to talk about that great thing that you've done because it directly connects to this business and it shows that you can do hard things. In the chat, Sarah's saying that I'm solo and how do I best picture that? So there's a couple things, right? If you were solo and you already have a business that is bringing in revenue and you're growing and you have customers, then I wouldn't worry about it, right? Because you were showing that you can do it. If you
Yeah.
don't have that, now your ability to attract other people to this idea is in part displayed by the team that you were able to build, right? If you're able to attract a co-founder who is also like qualified in this area, maybe you have a CTO that's helping you to build this. And then here is definitely a place where I would talk about some of those other investors. I'm sorry, those advisors who are grounded in this market and in this problem and have worked at other places, and they are clearly experts based on their credentials in the thing that you are doing. I'm gonna talk about them. I'm gonna put them on the slide because this shows that even though you say that you're pre-revenue, you haven't been able to make money yet, you have been able to still sell. And what you're selling is you as a founder and your idea and your ability to attract a team. All right, we've got four more of these, and
Oh,
this one,
yeah, we got to
yeah,
rip through it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Last
this
thing
one,
I'll say is
go.
your co-founder is your first customer if you're solo.
Yeah, good, awesome. All right, here's an error that I'm seeing more and more. And this is where founders are letting AI do the thinking for them, right? The building the pitch deck is the work. Like the getting the pitch deck at the end is not really the point, right? The point is how do I take this big idea that I have and distill it down into a way that I can communicate in a very clear, tight package. AI can take the information that you give it and make slides that are labeled all the right things and it pours a bunch of stuff onto those slides, but it doesn't do the thinking for you. And as soon as you start talking about your pitch, it's all going to fall apart. So I 100% use AI to help in doing some of the research that I do with people in the Countdown program. I'll use AI to help us to make the first draft of the slides that we have there. But I'm not giving it a bunch of information and saying make this. I'm actually giving it a skill file of my book. I have this huge punch list from multiple conversations that I've had with the founder. On average, we do probably 4 to 5 1-hour conversations with the founder to extract all that information, and we talk about it, and it's more of this like verbal um, explanation and a little bit of debate. And I can challenge them, and we refine their idea so that at the end, the deck is evidence of the refined idea, but not the purpose itself. The other thing that we'll see sometimes if you don't proofread these decks is you will get these little notes that are put inside the deck that are really the AI's notes to you, but then people, for whatever reason, they send them and they submit it as part of their submission to the
Planning
Countdown program.
assumption, validation target. Yeah.
Yes, right. Yeah, don't use AI to help you, but AI doesn't replace you, right? If AI could replace you, then we'd just be buying AI and not investing in your business.
You're sleeping in the clouds.
Yes. All right, here we go. Last is these few on the order of the pitch. Like here is a problem that happens to lots of technical founders, and I work with people who are in deep tech, who are in the medical space. They're building medical devices. They're cybersecurity, treasury operations, these types of things, and they bring the investors, I say, into deep water too soon. They start talking about this very technical thing on slide one, and nobody understands what they're talking about. Now, if you happen to be pitching to a group of investors and you know that they only invest in health tech and they only invest in cardiac devices, and you're a cardiothoracic surgeon, go to it. But most people are not doing that. You need to build your pitch with the expectation that this investor is the intelligent sixth grader, that they know generally about the world, but they have no special expertise in this area. And in fact, your ability to communicate this complicated, complex idea down into something that people can actually understand shines a light on you because this person understands this so well that they can explain it to me. And I'll tell you, just the way that humans work, if I don't understand something that you're presenting to me, Most humans aren't going to say, I'm the problem, right? They say, this person presenting is a poor presenter. And if they're a poor presenter, how are they going to sell? How are they going to build a team? How are they going to do this thing? A lot of the work that I do and some of the best value that I deliver is taking these complicated ideas and then boiling them down to get what I say is a beachhead of understanding. I want to create this amount of space where we know everybody in the room understands this, and then we can begin expanding that into these other areas. And I'll take you as deep as you need to go. It's not about dumbing down, it is about making your idea accessible to your audience. Another one that we see is the founder will talk about their problem. Their problem is clear after slide 2, and then they spend 5 more slides doing it. Don't do that, right? If you've made the problem clear, move on. How do you know that you made the problem clear? Well, you use resources like the pitch practice at Gust. You pitch it to other people. You get feedback. There are tons of free spaces where you can do it. Also, from my LinkedIn, I will meet with anybody. You send me a note, and I will give you a calendar link, and I'll listen to your pitch and give you feedback. And I've done this for hundreds of people. There's only been one person that have ever said, I got nothing for you. Like, that's perfect. So pitch it to another person, pitch it to a friend, see what's going on, and get to the place you need. All right. Another time you'll have a founder who's pitching some big idea. It sounds like kind of crazy. Already investors are starting to think, well, there's no way this is going to work. Like, I don't know. I mean, I like this person. I like what they're doing, but this just isn't going to happen. And then on slide 8, they reveal that they've got 3 customers. They're paying them $50,000 a year for 5 years. Like, dude, like, lead with that. Tell us in the beginning that you already have a market. You already have customers. You're already making revenue, and now we're raising money to make it big. Customers are the most important part of your pitch, right? It's the most persuasive part. People are already buying your thing. That lets a lot of the rhetoric go away because now you have evidence. And then the last one I have here is what we talked about earlier, right? That they're trying to use one deck to do 2 jobs. That's why in the Countdown program we produce 2 decks. We produce a standalone deck that can be there and it tells your story even if you're not, and that has a lot more words. It has more text. It's going to say the things because you're not there to say them. And then we have the delivery deck. And this delivery deck is trimmed down. And the words that are on the slides are words that need to reinforce the words that are coming out of my mouth. That deck is supporting my words, not me standing there to deliver these slides. If you are showing a slide during your presentation that has lots of words on it, and you guys even saw it today, and I have fewer words, but you're reading. If you're reading, you're not listening to me. I want to control your attention. I am jealous of your attention, and I want to put it in the place that I need it, and I want the words on the slides to reflect the things that are coming out of my mouth. Ryan, thoughts on these before we close up?
I always have thoughts, but I want to get to the questions because we only have 4 minutes to go, and obviously I'm losing my voice. Um,
Oh, they're there.
Also, I just agree with everything that you said.
Okay.
Thank you very much for Abukan, for just putting in some details about what total addressable market actually means. Um,
So I have the Q&A pulled up, the questions
yes, yes, yes,
that are
yes,
there.
yes.
So somebody is asking, Kufre is asking, is it a lot harder to convince investors if you're a solo founder and yet to build a team? I'll let you answer this one, Ryan.
So I would say in the past, a lot of investor groups and a lot of personal angel investors that I know would only invest in teams because they know most angel investors are previous founders that have found some success, and they realize like the amount of hats that you need to wear are so many that it's almost impossible to do the job, as a solo person. Things are changing a little bit. Dan, I'd be curious about your perspective because I know you've
Mhm.
been leveraging tools and, being able to like build a business that is, basically solely funded. It's a knock still, in terms of if two people, 2 human beings show up and say, "Hey, we're building this company together and we love it," more compelling than one person being like, "I have this crazy idea and I want to build it and I've done stuff so far." But like Dan said in the previous things, like traction speaks all. So if you're a solo founder and you have traction and you're meeting customers and you're filling demand, people are going to care less. If you are a solo person who says, "I have no money, I have no customers, I have no, revenue, I just want money," you're going to be it's going to be tougher. But it's not it's no longer a complete dismissal. But it's still stronger. Like I said before, it's like your co-founder is your first customer. It's the first person that you've convinced to join this crazy venture. Even though they're not, paying you money for what they're doing, you've been able to convince them to jump on this wagon. And that shows a lot about what you can do as a person as well as what your business is.
Awesome. All right, we got a couple. We're going to speed round these because we got 2 minutes
Yeah.
here left, right? So Sahelia is asking, how can I build a strong startup in the biotech industry? It's the same answer, right? You build something that relieves a pain, solves a problem for people who are willing to give you money to do it, right? It's going to be harder to show that proof in the biotech industry because of all the regulations and the things that you have up front. So you show other ways of showing proof, where you have a history of things that you've done before. You have advisors who are in the space who believe in you, but ultimately it comes down to solving a valuable problem for people that can pay you. Dan is asking, is there AI to practice your pitches and get real feedback? I'm going to tell you no, because a pitch is not an information transmission. It is an exercise in helping people to decide, right? And there's so much that's built into the way that humans decide that isn't in the training data of AI. It is idiosyncratic. Even we often don't know exactly how we decide things. So it is really about like working with the human, trying to see what they understand, what they don't understand, and communicating those. And we'll do the last one here for Seema. Is it better to start the pitch with market data or the solution product? I say neither, right? The best pitches that I build for people start with a short story, 30 seconds, of a customer who has this pain, and I was able to relieve the pain for them. If I don't have a customer yet, then it's going to be a founder who, a pain that I relieve for myself, and this product, this service, relieve that pain, and there are millions more people like them. That frames your discussion around what you're actually doing, and it makes everything else in your pitch easy for people to take on board. If you start giving facts without the hanger for people to put them on, you're just giving them a whole bunch of stuff to hang on to and hope that they will sort it out. I can guarantee you that in the countdown to launch program, nobody's left holding these. Like the
Yes.
clear path is, here's why people would pay for this. There's lots of them. Here's my solution. Here's how I'm going to build a out of it. Here's why I'm the right person to do it. And now I'm looking for investors who want to be on this path with me. The biggest thing that I deliver for people is clarity for you and your business, and clarity that you were able to communicate. And when you were clear, you were going to either hear a yes or a no, but you're going to have a better chance at yes. And when you hear a no, you know it's because that investor is not interested in your business, not because they didn't understand you. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention. I look forward to connecting with you on LinkedIn. We'll follow up. We'll put my links inside there, as well as the recording and the one pager for you. Always looking to help founders build great businesses. Thanks so much for the opportunity, Ryan.
Thank you, Dan. Always.